So I have a company called Safe Environments, and I teach CPR first aid training, and I also teach pediatric for people who need to take mandatory 8-hour classes in the child care field, and every 2 years they have to renew their license. That's basically the two things I do. I did some CPR classes for paddling clubs, and I started thinking about, I've paddled quite a bit and been out in the water, and I thought we really needed for the people that are on the water to add a component, because to me CPR, first aid, and being aware of what's going on when you're on a boat out in the water, to me seemed very important. So I just wanted to look at what happens when we're out there and what could go wrong. And I tried to fit as much in, not make it too long, but just discuss a little bit about if you're a new paddler that joins a club. It's kind of nice out here in the harbor, and you know, there's days you'll get out there and say, well, it's not even cold, I'll just wear a t-shirt, and then you get out past the point and you're freezing. So this is sort of an awareness level of what to look for when you're paddling and how to be prepared at every level. And some things that I noticed over the years, all the way from Hawaii to here, a lot of things people don't think are important when they're out there in the water, because what could go wrong, right? So we're going to talk about, one click please, my clicker there. We always hear about hypothermia, and well, I think it's this one right here. Okay, you're off the team. So hypothermia is something that's you're on your way to hypothermia. So hypothermia, we always hear somebody went into hypothermia. Well, hypothermia happens, but there's a point where you can go into different levels. We're going to discuss those. We have a boot camp. I'm going to show you a video of some people going into water. A little bit colder than we have here, but what's our average temperature here? Does anybody know? 53. Yeah, could go to 50 sometimes. Because the water is just about 4 degrees colder in their extreme test that they, so that all applies to here. It's just an element of a little more time if you're in the water. So this is conditions that can happen from a flat day. This is just near the San Mateo Bridge, and it just builds from there. And you can see if you're on brakes or something, there's not much chance for you to be, you know, if you've got 3 guys with you and nobody has an extra paddle, let's say, what good are they going to do? And a lot of people go out, don't take paddles. You can see that paddle right there. If you're out in this and you break an AMA or you lose your paddle, and I happened to be right out here one time with something like this, and another one hit me on the side and blew the paddle right out of my hand. And I can't emphasize enough, it's a real pain to put the paddle on. But if you're out there, even going up towards the Marine Lab, and it gets nasty and the wind's going, and you lose your paddle, and there's another guy, Bob, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I do.
Tell us what happened with you.
I was not leashed to my boat, and it got carried away from me in
That's
the
another
wind.
subject too. So, but you were stuck, right?
Yeah, but I had another person with me, and
You
we're
guys-
here to tell this story.
But I'm saying,
It was a
is that
bad
if you've got
situation.
5 guys with you and they all have paddles and you don't, you still have nothing, right? I mean, you can try to get diet. I'm just saying one of the things is paddle like that. Because the water gets like this and way worse. This is outside the gate, and again, you get in a situation like that, and you can see that all of a sudden, if something goes wrong, there's not a lot somebody can do with you unless the chase boat's there. And if you're in the wave chaser, Mike Martinez is never near you. As everybody knows. Right? He's usually trying to fix his motor. I went by him one time in a wave chaser race, and I paddled by him, and he couldn't start his motor. I said, this is the chase boat? Okay, well, anyway, I'm just emphasizing that the conditions get bad quickly out there, and be prepared. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what can happen. Button guy? So.
Is that my new tag?
Yeah, but I've got to see, I haven't, I wanted to see, there's some, no,
You went too far.
we went too far. See, I gotta, to be honest with you, this slide, could you? Oh, this is, I've done a lot of Dragon Boat classes, and I just put these in to show you, we're all out there having good times, and they go with pretty flat stuff. But pay attention to how many people are in the boat, and could you lose somebody if they weren't equipped properly? I mean,
Overboard, attention!
1, 2, 3, 4.
so the point is, somebody could go down, hit their head, and you wouldn't know it, unless you're aware of what's happening, you have to count. So you get the point. Now that's really fairly calm water, obviously. I know we never hoolie in the six fans, but you know, it could happen. So if we're out, one of the points I'm making here is you got 6 people in there. If you're not, if somebody goes, they could hit their head on the arm, it could hit them in the head or something, and then you have a problem. So it's just, and you guys cover that, I know, but it's an awareness level. You know, if you're casual paddlers and, you know, and you're out with a lot of new people, it's important they all kind of realize what can happen. Cold water, we talked about it, and they say that cold water is generally below 68 degrees. And the colder the water, the quicker we move towards total hypothermia. There's different stages, but you don't want to get to any of the stages because total hypothermia could cause death. But okay. So cold water immersion, this chart, this is about where our water is, 50 to 60 degrees, let's say. Loss of dexterity is 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm going to show you a video. And what this means is you're out in the bay, and you're out with the San Francisco guys, and they say, well, we'll just go out, you know, at 4 in the afternoon. So by the time you get back, you're froze to death, and it's dark. So if you go in the water, you have 15 minutes to use your phone, your radio, untie your paddle, because you have this muscle tissue that just freezes up on you. You can't do anything. And we have a video to show that. So be aware that, oh, I could get out there. It's like the fanny packs for your that you can wear, your flotation devices. Everybody wears them, I know. But I started wearing the full vest, especially in rough downwinds, because I didn't want to have to see if I could get this, if it's going to work, and if I have to blow it up and to get it on while trying to hold my paddle and hold onto my boat and fight waves like that. So loss of dexterity. A time to exhaustion is 1 to 3 hours. Well, if you've lost dexterity, in 15 to 20 minutes, you're not going to be able to climb back on your boat. You just probably not. My friend Roger, he's a pretty healthy athlete, and he's done running and all this. He went over and he's got his his paddle got blown, and his boat took off, and he ended up about an hour and a half swimming at the San Mateo Bridge. And luckily, he had enough warm clothes to make it. But I wouldn't bet on a lot of people getting out of the water after an hour. So your survival time, 1 to 6 hours, I'll take the 6. But all of this is predicated on a couple of things. What kind of condition are you in? We're talking about people in good condition. If you go out there and you don't have a great cardio, or you have, you know, whatever, your time is going to diminish because you're going to get tired and you're just not going to be able to function. So being in condition is important too. Okay. The seasonal rate in San Francisco Bay, I just threw this in, is January is 53 degrees to September 60 degrees. Near Fort Point. Fort Point is where you go around outside the gate on the left side. I think that's Fort Point. So another rough area. Okay, so basically what happens is that we get, there's some regulators that tell you what's happening, and if you could just press it once. So your skin is one of the monitors for coldness, and it sends signals to your brain about what's going on with the temperature loss, your spinal cord, and your abdomen, your stomach. So these are all sensors to you. You know it's cold, but this is where they're coming from. What happens is these are mechanisms. So if you start shivering, okay, we all know we shiver. Well, that's a way of generating heat. That's why we shiver. But you know, once you stop shivering, then you're really getting in trouble, because shivering, again, burns a lot of energy. So you're only going to shiver for a short amount of time out there. And then when that stops, then you're going to start going into more of a hypothermic condition. This is a chemical thermogenesis, which is your body compensates. Like they'll tell you in one of the videos that some of the people jumped in the water, cold water, and their core temperature actually went up briefly, and that's because of thermogenesis. And this is a chemical reaction in your body, and it doesn't last very long. So shivering will warm you up for a short time. Thermogenesis will warm you up for a short amount of time. But what's going to happen is it's going to go down. Now next, I thought this was really great. This is how it all works, and I can give you a copy of that later. I have no idea what it's about. I don't know. I looked at that. I go, well, that's it. That covers it all. So that's the mechanism: shivering and thermogenesis, and your body is really struggling now to get itself back to the base core temperature. Okay. Surviving cold water immersion. Now this is when you go in. So if you would hit 4 stages. The first thing that happens, and you'll see this in the video, we've all fallen in, right? And it's cold enough, you get that cold shock for about a minute, and you gasp. So you're not breathing properly. And somebody pointed out, you know, when you're a swimmer, these people that go out and swim, well, they're in cold water, but they're controlling their breathing when they're swimming. Like when we paddle, we're controlling it. When you go in that water, there's no control, so your breathing's erratic. And so what you need to do, and they'll go through that, is to just try to just relax and get your senses about you, because that shock will go away. But it's a loss of regular breathing. So this is what you can expect. Cold incapacitation is what we're talking about. The colder the water, the quicker you can't use your fingers, or you're not going to be able to jump on a boat. Like if you go out and huli on one man, you can just hop right back on it and take off. But if you're in the water for a short amount of time, it's going to get harder and harder. So that's the other thing to consider. Obviously, when you go out, how cold is it? What kind of gear do I need? And just be aware of what could happen. Hypothermia is the end product of being in the water maybe up to an hour. And now you're in hypothermia. This could be a very dangerous situation. You don't want to get there. Just the first couple of stages would be enough, because you're really cold and you need to get your core body temperature back. Post-rescue collapse. What that means is that if you see somebody, and they'll show you, there's a way to bring people out of the water. If somebody came up, I don't know, do you guys do this or rescue where you bring them out flat, horizontal? Has it been something that you... They say that don't stand people up, and the reason is because the extremities are going to be colder. And if you stand them up, then that cold blood could go to the heart and give you a heart attack and kill the person. I was told that there was a boat in the North Sea, and I think there was 15 or 16 fishermen. They were really, they were all in hypothermia probably. And they were rescued, and they brought them on a boat. You know, they were pretty far gone, but they weren't dead. And they all rescued them, but they stood them up, and they all died. They all died from heart failure. Because of that extreme cold, way colder, all of a sudden pumping through your heart, you're into cardiac arrest. So if you saw somebody and you were bringing them out of the surf, keep them flat. Keep them flat, don't stand them up. Okay? So go ahead and cold shock. Okay, cold shock. Control breathing, keep your head out of the water, avoid panicking. This should take 1 to 3 minutes. Incapacitation sets in between 10 and 30 minutes. So if you're out there, it's 53 degrees, 15 minutes from then you're going to be pretty, you're going to be, I don't know, I mean, I've gotten in the water, never fallen out, coming back in. My hands, when I'm trying to load the boat and stuff, I just can't even do it, because it just starts to make your tissues and your muscles just not work. Oh, go back. This is the big thing. Without a flotation device, most people will drown. And they have a video I'm showing you. It's just great because a lot of people think I'm strong, I'm a good swimmer, and that doesn't even come into the quotient. You've got to have a flotation device. You have to have a plan and one that you can get on that's going to work. The reason is they can't keep their head above the water. Okay. So if you go into the water, your body temperature goes down 25 times faster than if you're just standing in cold air. So this is why this happens so quickly. So if you get dumped and you're in there for just a while, I think last year there was a situation out by the pier where guys went in and they were getting cold, and they said, boy, and all of a sudden they just felt like the incapacitation was getting to them. Like, yeah. And once it does, then nobody can help anybody. Okay? So if you're in a six-man and you come to the situation where you can't get the boat back and you're waiting for some help to come out, this is a huddle position, this posture. Okay? Heads out of the water so you don't lose the temperature, and huddle up so you can try to at least stay warm. Okay? And plus you're staying together, which is important. If you're alone, it's this position here, keeping the head out of water, okay? So if your core body temp goes below 95, this is mild hypothermia. This is a journey to the deep abyss of coldness. Then you go into moderate and then severe. When they get into severe, the EMTs come, and that's something I'm not sure what they do. If it's a mild or moderate, we want to try to get the core body temperature back. If we have somebody in a boat, we just try to warm them up. We've got a couple of slides about that. Is try to get their core body, get their wet clothes off, put some dry clothes on, and hot liquids, and that type of thing. Okay? This is a cold water boot camp. Let's see if I can. You start there. There you go.
8 volunteers, 45-degree water. This is Cold
4 or
Water
5 degrees
Camp
colder than
USA.
here.
We have selected 8 very hardy volunteers from across the country to subject them to icy cold water and teach them how to survive an accidental cold water immersion.
Okay, boot campers, welcome. The best way to learn about cold water immersion is to jump right in. You've got your gear, go on and get suited up, and then you're all going to go for a swim. Okay? Okay. All right.
We're going to show you why people die in cold water. Why year after year, so many lives are lost to cold water. You see, most people don't understand the effects of cold water immersion, and some end up paying the ultimate price. So pay attention, this program could save your life. As our boot campers head to the water, here are a few cold hard facts.
The 2007 study of recreational boating accidents by the United States Coast Guard found that water temperatures made a difference. In water between 70 and 79 degrees, only 8% of the accidents were fatal, while accidents in water with a temperature of under 59 degrees, more than 40% were fatal. That means your risk of dying in cold water under 59 degrees is 5 times as great. Drowning statistics studied by the Life Saving Society revealed that when it came to boaters, 60% drowned in water under 50 degrees, and 34% drowned in water between 50 and 68 degrees. What makes it even more chilling is the fact that 43% were less than 6 feet from safety, and the majority, about 90%, were not wearing a life jacket. So why don't people wear life jackets? Research revealed that many said they don't need them if they're close to shore. Some felt that they could put their life jackets on in the water, and most, well, most said they didn't need one because they can swim.
Well, as our boot campers are about to find out, that in this 45-degree water, none of those reasons are valid.
The folks who failed quickly were very interesting because they would have drowned if they didn't have somebody to rescue them. But they weren't, again, medically hypothermic or cold. So all they had was cold muscle tissue, which didn't work. And as you get weaker, you'll fail, and then you'll drown. Hey, how's everybody doing? Well, you had an interesting experience this morning, and I'm just going to ask you one question. If you fell into ice water, how long until you became hypothermic? Not dead from hypothermic, just hypothermic. And you can see here that it's pretty interesting. 50% of the people said 5 minutes or less. And if you go on here, like if you add that, 70% of the people who responded said 10 minutes or less. And the reality is, as we're going to talk about, the answer is actually 30 minutes or more, only if you have a life jacket on. So, we're going to describe cold water immersion. The first one is the cold shock response. Then there's cold incapacitation, which kind of happens within 5 to 15 minutes. And then hypothermia will only set in 30 minutes or longer. So in parallel, we're going to talk about this 1-10-1 principle that we developed. It goes like this: 1 minute to get your breathing under control. You have 10 minutes of meaningful movement, and you have 1 hour before you become unconscious due to hypothermia. So let's review these 3 effects. The first one, the cold shock response. We tell people that it lasts about a minute. Now gasping, we don't need to speak to that. You get a cold blast of anything and you gasp. And you can imagine that that's not a great idea. And the other thing about uncontrolled breathing is, and I don't think most people think about this, but when we're running or playing games or swimming, we usually entrain our physical movements with our breathing pattern. But now, if you have uncontrolled breathing, it makes it very difficult to control your swimming, as we saw a few cases earlier on. Second effect, cold incapacitation. We saw that a bit earlier, and we're going to see that quite a bit later on in our next set of swimming. Right? So and it's all about just the effect of cold on muscle and nerve cells. Right? Muscle cells do the action, nerve cells send the signal. You make either of those cold, and you're not going to be able to perform. It's pretty, the physiology is complicated, but the principle is simple. Okay, so in water that's near freezing, incapacitation can occur within 2 to 10 minutes. So the third effect is hypothermia. This is what everybody associates with cold water immersion. So the realities are, even in ice water, it'll take 1 hour before you become unconscious due to hypothermia. Only if you have a life jacket on. Because there's no way without a life jacket that you can keep your head above water long enough. Okay? So a life jacket really increases your chance of survival, as we all know. And remember, you're trying to increase your survival time, and even if you can increase it 10 minutes or an hour, that could make the difference between living and dying.
Today, the campers were tasked with some specific incapacitation tests. 4 volunteers headed just offshore to go for another swim, but this one was a little different from the one before. Chuck and Jonah, and Ashante and Rachel were each asked to take a swim in pairs, one with a life jacket and one without.
Okay, now Rachel was doing very well with her PFD. In fact, I just asked her, and she actually said she was okay to keep swimming. Now, she's getting very cold, but obviously she swam a lot further than she or Ashante would have been able to do without a life jacket. Oh man, you guys haven't learned your lesson. as you can see, Chuck is having a very difficult time. He can keep his head above water, but with the waves and the cold water, basically all he's doing is staying afloat. He's not making any headway. Oh, look at him. Oh, man.
The remaining 4 campers stayed closer to shore and were tasked to perform several tests. Their jobs were simple ones, like tuning and calling on a VHF radio, deploying a signal flare, and trying to reboard a vessel. But as time went on, those tasks became less simple, and after a short time in the water, you could clearly see that they became slower and more belabored.
That's going a little slower.
Tim and Victor were removed from the water, but Mario and Mark stayed in longer, much longer, to take them into mild hypothermia. Along the way, their core temperatures were measured, and interestingly, both experienced an increase in the beginning before the cold water started to cause their temperatures to drop.
Okay, so in 20 minutes you've gone from 100.5 to 99.2. You drop a degree of 1.2, and then you dropped another degree in the last 10 minutes.
If I didn't have a life jacket, I don't know that I'd have made it much past that 5 or 6 minute mark. Certainly I would have drowned. I certainly would have made it 30 minutes. You're not going to be thinking about how much that thing costs. You're just going to be glad you had it.
This is a very interesting weekend because even in water at 45 to 47 degrees Fahrenheit, we were able to see all 3 phases of cold water immersion. Just about everybody had a cold shock response, lots of gasping and hyperventilation, which in a couple of cases made it very difficult to swim. Pretty well all of them, on one day or the other, had cold incapacitation and were not able to swim, so they went to swim failure. We even took a couple of guys to hypothermia, although that took quite a while in that water. And that just proves the point. The life jacket is absolutely necessary to get past those first 2 phases and survive long enough to be rescued.
When it comes to cold water, preparation and prevention are the keys. Try to prevent yourself from falling in cold water and prepare in case you do with simple things like having a plan of how to rescue yourself or how to call for help. Knowing what to do in those first few critical minutes can make the difference between you becoming a statistic or a survivor. And regardless of your age, fitness level, or ability to swim, the best way to stay safe on the water, any water, is to simply wear your life jacket.
Okay, any comments on that? It speaks for itself. Again, life jackets, especially in cold water, especially if you're by yourself on a one-man, I would say. And they have them now, and I've got a picture of one. They're pretty comfortable. You get used to them. So the primary goals for a treatment of this, so what we want to do is prevention. We bring somebody that has mild cold incapacitation. They come out of the water, we're paddling, we get in late. Just start warming them up. Blankets, clothing, that type of thing, hot liquid. Get the core temperature back, stabilization, that's what we're doing. And packaging, so this would again be the blankets and the wrap. Get a baggie with some warm water in it, and double them up, and you put them under the arms and the groin area. That'll help bring that core temperature back. And that's what you can do if it's mild. I mean, also be aware of looking at people and see if you need to get 911 call. Because if you're not sure and they don't look, then you don't want to be guessing. It's better to guess on be safe than sorry. Because, somebody could, if they're older or something, like Bob, they could.
Certainly not you.
So, okay. So if you're shivering but is mentally and physically alert and acting normally, then they're most likely it's just you got out of the boat, you're out in the 6th man, and you got in late and it's cold. But it's important to get them warmed up or get some clothes on. Usually what I try to do when we get that is I like to go to the car, just get the warm clothes on quickly if it's pretty cold. Most of the time you're just cold, but again, be aware, that's all. And so if you're shivering and you're conscious, your core body temperature is most likely at or above 89 degrees. Hypothermic is not shivering. If obviously hypothermic, you're not shivering, you've been past that, your core body temperature is between 86 and 89, and the pupils will be dilated. So I think if you see that, then you may need to take some action. You may need to really work hard on getting the temperature down and just seeing if they're losing consciousness and if you may need to get 911 called, okay? What do we have on the next?
That's it, unconscious.
Claremont.
Unconscious.
Oh, yeah. If he's unconscious and he was wearing a flotation device at the time of recovery, then their core body temperature, because they've been in so long, is below 86. They also may have had aspirated water, even with a flotation device. So unconscious, obviously, we want to get 911 on the way and get them some help. Post-rescue collapse. Well, what they mean about this is what I said. You get somebody out of the water and they've used all their energy, and they call it a hydrostatic squeeze, where I guess the pressure of the water and everything, they're functioning. It's like, I guess it's like we do a race and that adrenaline goes down, all of a sudden you're tired. So you don't want to, rough handling is something, when somebody gets out, you've got to just try to be gentle, pulling them out of the water, and rough handling seems to be an element that they want to stay away from. Incorrect rewarming, I think that would mean putting them in a bath of hot water. You don't want to do that, or a shower. That's incorrect. I mean, you get into the point which we're not talking about of frostbite. You don't want to rub the skin or do anything like that because it's frozen. But here we're talking about incorrect rewarming, and I would think they would be talking about throwing them in a hot water bath or a shower. That's not what they want you to do. And if they have inhaled water, I would assume that you put them in a recovery position and see that if they're breathing, if the water will come out. Again, if you don't know, get 911 and some professionals there that can handle this. If they're having a hard time and they've taken in the water, I think I'd call 911 and get somebody that can put a tube down and get the breathing back where it belongs. Okay? Now this is the, oh, you there it is. There you go.
Do anything.
All right.
Oh.
You think you can get up and walk?
Possibly. Can't really feel my feet.
Do you want to try?
Sure.
See if you can get up on your own. Just see how it goes.
Okay. Oh, my arms are really...
Here, let's take this out for now. And let's say you just swam up on the shore and can you get up?
All my joints were really stiff, and I feel like I can't. I feel like I don't have any muscle control. I feel kind of silly.
That's okay.
Oh. Yeah. If I crack my head on the rocks.
No, we'll watch it, but just get a demonstration of.
It's really, like I had to concentrate on like trying to move my feet forward.
Stop. Anyway, what she does, is that you could see, she wasn't in the water very long. They're just trying to show you how you're not in hypothermia or anything. You're cold tissue that you can't function, and that's. Like I say, especially in our boats, trying to get back in them and bailing and things like that, you just got to be aware of the temperatures out there. So you can just index a couple ones. So, warming, just some of the things, the burrito wrapping. So this is where you put the water like that and wrap them to bring that core temperature down. get dry clothes on if at all possible, and in a warm area. So if it's below 89 degrees, they add hot liquid was in the other one. Same burrito wrap, hypothermia wrap, some warm liquids, a bottle of that or a baggie with warm water. No shower or throw them in a hot bath. And keep them laid out so that their blood can warm up all together instead of going through the heart like that. So basically this is, we're all familiar with these for one mans, and they're fine if you feel that you need to pull the thing, and we're not sure if they're always going to work, because mine are like 50 years old. I don't even know if they would work. But if it's cold, getting that thing on in rough water on a downwind, I wouldn't want to try to do it to get it over your head, and then hopefully you pull it, because you're trying to hold on to your boat and your paddle and get that. So I've opted to get one of these, and they're comfortable, and I've used it all the time. The flat water race last week at the slough, I didn't wear it because we're in the slough. I mean, if you fall off, it's 4 foot of mud you can stand in. So, but just be aware. That's all we're saying. Be aware.
Is the orange one a jacket in and of itself, or is it one where you have to pull a?
No, this is just a vest. That's a,
okay.
It's a lightweight vest. It's like a maki,
Yeah.
and it's lightweight, and to me you get used to it. It's just I feel a lot better having that when I'm in rough water, because I know if I go over, it's one less thing I have to worry about.
I agree.
And I mean, hot days, you got to be the judge. But I'm just saying, just know what you're doing. As I said, there's a couple of elements. Be in decent shape when you go paddling. Make sure, if you're going to go out for a long time, make sure you have enough water and food. I hear all the time people say, I don't need water. I can go for hours and days and stuff. Well, you lose, if you get into a problem out there and you don't have enough water or food, that could really amplify the problems you're going to have. One time we were coming from doing, going up from Davenport, well above Davenport, and it was about 35 or 40 when we started, and the swells were huge, and I had stuff with me luckily, but the swells were such they kept taking us out. And usually they break coming back in at the point, and you come back in, it slows down, and it didn't. So my point is, we were up to 3.5 hours, and it was rough, and I had luckily some water and some stuff with me. So just be aware, you don't jump in the boat. If you go out, it's just going to help you when Dave's grinding out your 3-hour practices. You want to have some nourishment, and plenty of water and electrolytes, because it's just going to make you a better paddler. And in the event that you guys kind of get stuck out there, it's nice to have some food to take in. So it's all part of the prep work. A couple of things I recommend you take. Well, you guys have all your radios in the 6-man, which are great. This is for the 1-man. This is a radio, a flare gun. Again, if you're out in big water, you can't even see the guy next to you. So when they're out there looking for you, if you go down, it's hard to see you. It's just, I'm sure you've been out there in the boat, you can't see 10 feet if the water's rough. So a flare gun, and then of course a leash always. I think you said you didn't have a leash on your boat, is that right? Well, I'm just saying.
I had the wrong I picked the wrong leash.
Okay, well, so anyway, this is my boat. Paddle on there that I showed you. I think that's an important element, again, in rough water. But if you go paddling and you guys are going to Moss Landing or something and you lose a paddle, okay, then if you have an extra paddle, then you can save yourself and you can go back and find your paddle, or you can at least get back in. So when I lost my paddle in the San Mateo Bridge, I had a paddle, and there's a certain way you tie it, and it was so rough, I got blown almost off the boat. I was laying on the ama kind of, and luckily, it took me a while just to turn around and get it off, because there's a certain slip knot. But if I didn't have that paddle there, and I could see my paddle, my $300 paddle, you could almost crawl to the back of the boat, but there was waves hitting me from all sides, and all I could think about was I got to get that paddle, and I got to get under this bridge and get back to where there's some calm water. It could have been a catastrophe. So be happy, be warm, safe, And, you know, just think about what you're doing. Know about what the currents are doing, what the tides are doing. If you're in San Francisco Bay, you shouldn't go out there unless you know if it's a high tide, a low tide, a super tide, because if you fall off, you want to know which way you're going and all that kind of stuff, because there's super tides. We did that race in Benicia, and it's like 2 or 3 miles an hour faster, 300 feet or 200 feet out from the shoreline. And so it's just important to know, because it might do you some good. So that's basically it. Yes?
Other than flotation, does the full vest help at all in maintaining core temperature?
Yeah, it keeps you warmer. A lot of people think they're hot on a hot day, which I agree with.
But if you're in cold water, does it?
Well, in cold water,
matter?
they're kind of a vest. They keep you warmer. So it's just a matter of getting used to it. You got to try it. And like I say, you don't need to wear them all the time. But when you look at the water and you go, wow, it's going to be kind of rough today, especially coming back, you might want to have that with you. And then if you huli or something, you've got one less thing to worry about. That's all. And so, any questions, any comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary teaches and certifies CPR, teaches CPR classes certified. And he did that for OSC last year. It was awesome. I'll take the names of anybody that's interested at the end of the class, and we can possibly hit them up for a date to do that again.
Yeah, we come out, I don't have a center, so to speak. I go to companies and I go out and do locations. So wherever, I do 5 counties. So I go from Monterey to San Francisco to Contra Costa to Alameda, and I go to where they are. Just a lot easier to get me there than to get 12 people to a center.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the niche I've worked out.